Well, as we enter cold and flu season this year, we have the added fears of an enterovirus and also Ebola.
Yeah, so how do you know if your kids are being protected at school or if they're just picking up germs? Dr. Deborah Gilbo, aka Dr. G, is author of Get the Behavior You Want Without Being the Parent You Hate. Good advice there. She's also a mother of 4. Good for you, Dr. G. Good morning.
Good morning.
So
Thanks for having me.
I've gotten the letters home from my kids' school, saying here's the signs to look for, but what actually should the school be doing?
The best thing that our schools can do is give our kids time and reminders to wash their hands.
Okay.
Soap and water is their best defense against most germs.
Okay, so how do you know if the school's actually doing enough to actually get the kids to wash their hands and do this stuff?
Right.
You can, if your kids are old enough, you can ask them and say, hey, how many times a day do you wash your hands at school? And how do you remember to wash your hands? Or are there any signs up in the bathroom to tell you to wash your hands? Do you get to wash before lunch, after lunch, germy times?
Okay. What else should kids be doing? What should you be sending them to school with to kind of keep them safe?
So here are the 3 things that, and I recommend that you have your kids stick these in their pockets.
Okay.
One is tissues, because tissues are definitely going to protect everybody from germs, but you only use a tissue if you can reach it when you're going to sneeze. If it's across the classroom on the teacher's desk, those germs are going everywhere.
Okay, good call.
That's one.
Okay.
The next thing that I want kids to have is actually hand lotion. Antibacterial stuff is not so useful. As a matter of fact, it may be dangerous.
Really?
And it doesn't protect against viruses. But we want kids to use soap and water, and after a while your hands get really dry and it's painful, and kids won't do it if it's painful. So if you put a little hand lotion thing in their pocket and say, just use this every time you're headed back from washing your hands, then they won't get those cracked, dry, painful hands, and they will wash their hands.
What about the lotions that have the antibacterial inside of them? Would that?
It doesn't actually make them any safer, and it can cause some problems.
Okay, all right, and then I see one other thing, Band-Aids.
The last thing is Band-Aids, and that's because an open scrape or cut is a really quick way to pick up every germ and some dangerous ones. So teach your kids, keep a couple in your pocket, and if you get a scrape or a cut, just cover it up real quick.
Okay, good idea. All right, so what are the germiest and most disgusting places in a school that you want the kids to avoid?
You totally want to know, don't you?
Oh yes, I do want to know this.
You think the desk, you think with the little kids, the toys, but what is it?
Really, they're the lunchroom.
Okay.
Right, because they're eating, the bathrooms, water fountains, which isn't a big surprise, and then lots of studies that show door handles.
Well, that's true.
Right? It totally makes sense.
Now, what about talking to your kids? I know that's important, talking to your kids about germs, about all these things.
That's the best thing that we can do for our kids, because we want them to consider their own health as their own responsibility. So we say to them, hey, if you're going to go through a door, especially at school, most of them are push handles, use your elbow, right? You're going to hit a light switch, use your elbow. If you have a friend who's really germy and you don't want to feel like that, don't touch them.
There you go. Yeah, we have some tips right on the screen right now for keeping your kids healthy. Flu shots are very important.
And honestly, flu shots are going to save more kids this year than enterovirus or Ebola could ever hurt.
Yeah.
And the other things we want to do is teach our kids how to keep their bodies resistant to getting sick. So eating healthy and exercising regularly and getting enough sleep.
Okay.
That's true for grown-ups, too.
Exactly. Well, when do you keep them home?
So you keep kids home and your school, I'm sure, gave you a list of things they don't want to see. So if they have a fever and they've had it in the last 24 hours, then it's not a great idea to give them Tylenol and send them anyway. It's really better to let them finish. Fever is our friend. Fever kills the germs. So we have to let our kids have their fevers and feel sick for a shorter period of time so that they can get better faster. And if they are obviously, if they've got a really bad cough or really bad runny nose or anything you don't want to talk about, those are reasons to keep them home.
Okay, what if your kid is healthy and you get a note saying that there's a case of enterovirus at school? Should you keep the kids home for a couple days? Because it happened in New Jersey just last week where parents were saying half the school didn't show up.
Okay, they're going to miss the whole school year. There's lots. Enterovirus has been around, we know about, since the 1960s. So this is not a new problem. If your child is a brittle asthmatic, or your child is immunosuppressed, or you have some sort of greater medical concern about your child, you should be talking to their doctor for sure. But otherwise, germs build immune systems. So we don't have to keep our kids home for fear that they will catch something. They'll catch some things, and that will be good for them in the long run.
Okay. Dr. G, thank you. Some good tips here. And I'm having a flashback now to to 8th grade chemistry class.
A little PTSD. Except actually just a flashback.
Pop quiz. I didn't study.
Except we're a little bigger now in these desks.
They don't quite fit as well these days. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. G.